everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome to another episode of Comic Class, the show every single Wednesday on this channel where we just geek out about comic books. And I know what a lot of you are asking right now. Hey Aaron, what gives? Wasn't this supposed to be the third episode in your DC Rebirth summary? Yes it was. But here's the thing. I'm currently out of town. I'm back down south visiting some family, so I was going to record all my episodes for this week ahead of time, but then I got really sick, so that didn't happen. But I didn't want to leave you guys a week without any comic class. So I decided instead of me recording for 2 hours because I just didn't have the strength to do that, instead I would make a really short video today talking about 2 comics that just came out that I am currently in love with. They are both brand new issue number 1s, so you can go out there and you can check them out. The very first issue that I am talking about today is Black Panther. Yes, this is a book that people have been waiting for a long time. I have not seen this kind of excitement and anticipation in my store for a book in probably ever. I have had people come in for months asking if this book was out. Before it even popped up in the solicitations 3 months ago, people were coming into my store just when there were rumors about this book, asking if it was out yet. People have been coming in every single week, and sure enough, when it came out, yeah, that thing flew off the shelf. We ordered a ton of it. And still, it was like, oh god, are we gonna sell out within the first week? This might actually happen. Black Panther is a character that people absolutely love, and yet he so rarely ever has a book, and it's because Marvel does not want to ever screw up Black Panther. Black Panther is one of those characters where they're like, no, if he's going to have a book, we're going to make sure it's done right. So he finally has a new book out, and it is done right. The new writer for Black Panther is Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he was a political correspondent for The Atlantic. This is his first comic that he's ever written, and I've seen Marvel pull in a lot of writers who have never written comics before, but they were always saying, oh no, but I actually am a big comic book fan, and then they come in here and they write a story that doesn't even feel like it exists within the same Marvel universe, and it just really feels like a standalone thing. And I'll admit, I was kind of expecting the same thing from this. This dude is a legit comic book fan. Like, he came in here and he started writing stuff down in this story that has not been referenced for Black Panther in years. Like, I absolutely love the Christopher Priest Black Panther series that came out back in the 90s. That was really the series that made everybody wake up and go, oh, Black Panther, this guy is a total badass. That was the series that made Black Panther the star that he is today. However, there were so many things in there that it feels like people forgot. Like, it just never feels like any of those things get mentioned. Christopher Priest himself even said that in the next series, the Reginald Hudlin Black Panther series, it almost feels like everything he had made was retconned out of existence. And as I was reading this Black Panther series, it really felt like people were remembering that. Like, there were little tiny things, like just mentions of like some of the technology they used, or the Dora Milaje, his staff of female bodyguards, that they were mentioning, and they were mentioning it and the importance of it in a way that I had not heard since that Christopher Priest series, and made me go, oh, someone else remembers this exists. And you can also tell he really loves the current stuff going on in Marvel Comics because, and this is one of the compliments, but also a minor little warning that I have to give about this book, you really have to know what is going on in Marvel Comics to understand this and what has recently happened to Black Panther. So I'm going to fill you in because this is one of these small problems I have with this book, is that it starts you right in the middle of the storyline. Like, I was reading this, and I was like, okay, at any moment now, it's going to flash back and show us how we got here, right? Because it literally starts off with Black Panther in the middle of a riot in his country of Wakanda, and he's talking about how, oh, they're rising up against me. I was like, when did any of this happen? However, as you read through the book, you slowly start to fill in the little gaps yourself. Like, it does not give you every single piece of information, but gives you enough that you can understand what's going on, which is actually really smart of it. Like, it really relies on you being able to connect these puzzle pieces. But for anybody who has not been reading Marvel Comics, I will give you the puzzle pieces that they just vaguely reference in here. Basically, Wakanda is a nation that has never been invaded. It's the most badass nation on Earth. Like, even the Skrulls, when they invaded, Wakanda just said, stay the f*** out. And they kicked all their asses, and that is how tough Wakanda is. But over the past couple of years, Wakanda was flooded, Dr. Doom stirred up some trouble there, Thanos invaded and killed Black Panther's sister. So for the first time ever, the people of Wakanda are looking up at the Black Panther like, yeah, weren't you supposed to keep all this from happening? And so for the first time ever, the people of Wakanda are like, yeah, man, we don't like you anymore. And as you read through this first issue, you start to see how this is affecting the Black Panther, and it doesn't really focus on him all that much as the rest of Wakanda, but that makes sense to me because Black Panther is Wakanda. He is his people. He has always cared the most about them. They have been his children. So yeah, I really felt like that was effective because as you see this country getting torn apart, you realize that's what's going on inside of Black Panther himself. You feel like he has failed, and you understand how much that weighs on him. I don't want to spoil anything, but as the story goes along and as you start to feel this tension rising, eventually you do see what the threat is. You start to see what is on the horizon for Black Panther, and it really does feel like the biggest threat that he might ever face. Because yeah, this guy has faced invading alien hordes before, he's faced gods, but this feels real. This feels like it's coming from a real place, and even though the threat isn't as big as Thanos, it feels so real that you are that much more concerned for where the story will go. And that comes a lot from the writer himself, because as I said, his entire career has been covering politics, it's been covering culture, it's been covering world affairs, and he actually has a lot of experience writing about that in African nations, and so he's able to take his experience writing about these things in the real world, and he applies it perfectly to a super sci-fi city and this superhero, which it is stunning to me how well he merges it in there. It is seamless the way that he does it. Like I said, he is able to take the Black Panther and make it feel so real, but at the same time, he fully captures how stunning the city of Wakanda is, how scientifically advanced it is. This guy, it's only one issue in, and I hate saying these kind of things, only one issue into a run, but this is hands down the best first issue I've ever read of a Black Panther series. And if he can keep this up, this to me will be the definitive Black Panther run. I know that's an insane thing to say after one issue, but at the same time, this is one of the best Black Panther issues I've ever read. So, if you have any interest in Black Panther, this is the place to start. Just realize, as I said, it's going to start you right in the middle of a story, and you have to know all those other things that I just mentioned in this video. But you've seen the video, so you know them now, so why are you still here? Go read Black Panther. Oh, I know why you're still here, because I said I had another book to talk about. Now, the next book that I want to talk about is The Fix by Nick Spencer and Steve Lieber. Now, these are the guys who brought us one of my favorite series from the past decade, Superior Foes of Spider-Man. For anybody out there who did not read Superior Foes of Spider-Man, it was one of the funniest books I've ever read, period. Not funniest Marvel books, not funniest superhero books, funniest books, period. The series was all about a team of Spider-Man's D-list villains, like Boomerang, the Shocker, Beetle, Speed Demon, like just his lamest of the lame villains, alright? They're one notch above the Spot and Kangaroo. That's how lame they were. And here's the thing, it was an amazing look at what it's like to be a D-list villain in the Marvel Universe. Like, every single issue was just focusing on something different about being a supervillain. Like, the second issue was all about the Punisher. And sure, we've read the Punisher comics, and we've seen him take out tons of D-list villains. We don't know how the D-list villains actually feel about this guy. And that issue was genius. Like, it starts off with them in a meeting in which they're voting about whether or not the bathroom should be unisex. And then they're going, alright, you know what the worst thing is about being a supervillain? What the worst thing about being a supervillain is? It's the meetings. The freaking meetings. And then later on in the issue, actually no, forget the meetings. You know what the real worst thing about being a supervillain is? The real worst thing? The lawyers. Having to deal with the lawyers. Oh my god. They're so this, they're so that. Then later on in the issue, they're all out to dinner, and then the Punisher just bursts in there and starts taking people out. And then he just goes, oh wait, you know what? Forget all those other things. You know what the real worst part of this job is? The freaking sociopath who tries to murder us. That's the actual worst part of this job. It was like, that had me rolling for minutes. So yeah, if you have never checked out Superior Foes, it is one of the biggest highlights of my comic book reading lifetime. I highly recommend it. And this book is coming out from that same duo. So I was looking forward to it, and it does not disappoint. However, before I continue, I know that I have a lot of kids out there who watch this channel, and I would just like to say, turn the video off now. This book is not for you, and I know that I said that about Deadpool. When I talked about the Deadpool movie, I said, listen, it's rated R, it's got all this language, all this violence, all this nudity, all this sex. It's not for the younger crowds out there. And I heard from the younger crowd saying, nah, I can totally handle it. I can totally handle it. You cannot handle The Fix. The Fix makes Deadpool look like Disney, okay? Like, there is one guy who they run into in this book, and he has just gotten done doing some drugs, and he goes on a 2-page long monologue, and it is, I'm not going to say what's a monologue about. Not going to say what it's about. However, when I got done reading it, my eyes were just gaping open and my mouth was dropped just like, who the heck actually just wrote that? Oh my, like, I was stunned by what I just read. I'm tempted, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read it to you right now. I'm going to read it to you, and I am going to bleep out everything in here that I think is not appropriate for kids. Our protagonist goes and meets this unsavory fellow in a bar, and then this fellow says to our protagonist, you ever Okay, full disclosure, I just cut out a huge part of this episode because I thought it would be funny if I read to you that 2-page monologue and then I just bleeped out all the parts that I didn't think was appropriate to say on the air, and then it would be funny how many bleeps were in there. I got about halfway through it before I realized this entire thing is just going to be bleeps. That is how disturbing this is. And I know somebody out there is like, why on earth are you saying this like it's a good thing? Because it is rare that you can actually write really weird, messed up stuff. And I find it hilarious because that's just not my sense of humor. It's not. I don't really enjoy sex humor. I don't really enjoy gross out humor. I don't. It's just not my thing. So if I'm going to enjoy it, you have to be insanely clever. You have to be a wizard with the pen. You have to be able to write that with such intelligence and craftsmanship that it makes me form that meme of Paka from the Emperor's New Groove. That is how good you have to write jokes like this in order for me to find them funny, and not a single line falls flat in here. That is how on point the writing is. Every single joke in here is a hit, no matter how far they go with it. I found myself just laughing hysterically all throughout this book, no matter what they were talking about. And I know you might be asking, well, what's the story of this? It's about two crooks, and that's literally all that I can tell you. I wish I could tell you more, and I wish that I could tell you some of the jokes that go into this, because I want to give you examples of how fantastic the writing is in here and how great the dialogue is, because I love good dialogue. That has always been my number one thing when it comes to a great writer. Great dialogue. However, this script is so tight and the dialogue is so good that for me to reveal any of it to you would be a spoiler to the story. Every single line does feel like it is important to this story. And as I said, it's about two crooks, but about a third of the way into it, they reveal another layer to the story that I didn't know, and it makes this a totally different type of story. It makes it about something completely different. And I've seen movies similar to this before, with a similar premise, but I've never seen it take this comedic approach to it, and I've certainly never seen it done this well. This is a fantastic issue for anybody out there who loves movies like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or anything else by Shane Black. And by the way, if you haven't seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, you really should go ahead and see it. It's one of my favorite films of all time. But if you are someone else who enjoys that gritty kind of noir comedy, this is a must read. You have to pick this up. For anybody else out there, for anybody who has kind of a weak stomach, or for anybody who is under 13, yeah, do not pick this up. Especially if you are under 13. Definitely do not. Even if you come in here and it's like, oh, I know gross things, I know all that sex humor, I'm fine with violence. Again, sometimes it isn't just about what you see. Sometimes it's about what you experience. There is a moment in this book in which the protagonist just lays out his entire view of life and his entire philosophy on life. And I read that and I was like, damn, that was almost poetic. However, I say that as a guy in his 30s. If you were 13 and you read someone give out that philosophy on life, it would probably f you up for the rest of your life. Like, you would probably look at everything else that is to come completely differently and be like, I don't know what to do now. Oh God, what's gonna happen? So yeah, trust me, even if you think you're prepared for this book, you will not appreciate it until you hit that perfectly right point in your life. So, if you have read either of these two books, let me know in the comments down below how you enjoy them. Like I said, next week we're coming back and we are going to be talking about the rest of DC Rebirth. So part 3 is coming out next week. As I said, I'm just out of town right now and I couldn't record part 3 in time because I was sick. So I thank you guys for tuning into this episode. If you want to see more from me, including more comic class every single Wednesday, or other geeky stuff such as video games or movie stuff, that comes on the weekends. So you can always hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much. Come back next time.